Go around the badger.
Hey everybody, it is the Angry Honey Badger here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a build and guide for Karma as a support. I'll talk about her a little bit in the mid lane too, and why I decided to make a build for her as a support. Well, I'll just do that now, actually. So the reason why I decided to do support, I think she's just slightly more impactful as a support in a 2v2 lane. I think the utility that she brings can be better utilized. A lot of the reason for this is because she brings lots of early damage, even with her base numbers, and way too much harassment early on for most other duo lanes to deal with. And I think that makes her a little bit stronger in the early game to influence a lane overall in a positive way. She's still really good in mid. Not saying that she's bad there. I actually really love playing her mid, but I just think she's actually more impactful in the bot lane. So early on, we're going to actually be able to get Quinn a double kill, which is really good for the lane. Quinn actually gave up first blood early with a really weird invade that happened in River. It was sloppy. We got to lane a little bit late because of it, and Quinn died. But regardless, Quinn picks up a double kill because synergy between Quinn and Karma is okay. Realistically, Quinn and Karma are just both really strong champions in general. A lot of people don't see Quinn in bot lane, but Quinn still does okay in bot lane, you know, with her changes that she got at the beginning of the season. But this combination of poke, harassment, and damage between the two of us is actually quite strong, and that was a really nice way to pick up 2 kills. But that's one of the reasons why we are going to be seeing support Karma in this video instead of a mid Karma. Mid Karma anyways right now is pretty generic for build because mages are generic, but mid-season mage update will change that probably a little bit. But regardless, let's talk about Karma as a support. But the first thing, well, we'll wait till after this fight. So focusing in this fight, because we'll just talk about it a little bit, we're focusing on who's closer and who we need to kill. Realistically, we want to kill Lucian. That's who we want to kill. So they both got exhausted, so there wasn't actually a great trade between the ADCs. But then as Lucian gets away and uses his heal, that kind of leaves Janna out, and that's who we turn our attention to. I don't actually know this Quinn, so we're not communicating, obviously, with any kind of thing. It's just random person in solo queue or whatever you want to call it, dynamic queue. So, but yeah, just focusing the correct target, who's closer or who's lower, and who's running away and who's not fighting, and or who's the damage. Just always keep that in mind when you are doing those things. And also, I'm trying to poke Lucian off because he's alone. We need to harass him and make things difficult for him. If you're ever alone, or if they're ever alone, be careful, let alone be harassing the solo person in the lane. They should not be there. He should just go back, buy something he can, maybe another Dorans, maybe some health pots, maybe boots even, and then come back to lane with his support. So he's in a safer position so he can actually get CS and actually get experience instead of us being able to cause that much damage to an early turret and take that out rather quick and then zone and create other problems. So just some little tidbits there, a little bit, we'd say. Yes. Let's talk, though, briefly about Karma's abilities and what they do, shall we? So we have her passive, which is Gathering Fire. Essentially, when you deal damage to champions with your abilities and your auto attacks, you get a cooldown refund on your mantra. Now, your mantra, you get a point in at level 1, regardless, because you always get one. That is your quote-unquote ultimate. It's, you know, it's not actually like an ultimate, but, you know, it empowers your other abilities. So let's talk about your mantra since your passive affects it. So your mantra will empower your next ability cast within the next 8 seconds to deal an additional effect on it. Empowered abilities share the same cooldown as their basic forms, so no worries there. And you will get abilities to rank up your mantra, so it has shorter cooldown overall and gives it improved effects. So that's your mantra. Now at rank 1, we put a point into Inner Flame, which is our Q ability. It's really good harassing tool. It's really good with mantra early. That's why you take a point in at level 1. We max this out first in lane because the damage, the zoning, the pretty cheap mana costs, honestly. 50 at rank 1. You can spam this many times early and do quite a bit of damage with it. It will deal magic damage. It will hit them and slow them by 25% for 1.25 seconds. The mantra bonus will then let it hit and deal bonus damage. You'll get that big circle that if people stand in it, they are slowed. If they don't leave it after 1.5 seconds, the circle will erupt, dealing additional damage to enemies that are stuck in it. Really good for zoning with it and putting it out, kind of laying like a baseline of stay out of this area. You can force people off objectives with it even if you don't land it. It's just a really nice zoning tool too. And like I said, because we max this out first, we do get significant damage even if we don't build damage per se on Karma. So Karma just has naturally good base damage numbers, which is why I like her as a support too. You don't actually have to worry about building tons of damage. You can just play her as a support with really good utility focused items and still have a really, really good impact with her. At rank 2, we typically put a point into Inspire, which is the shield. You can cast this on yourself or on allies. It will give them a shield for 4 seconds, and the target will get increase in movement speed for 1.5 seconds, which is always nice. If we use our mantra bonus on this, this will overflow, and shield amount will be halved for allies that are close, and they get a bigger shield too. I believe, is it a bigger? Yeah, your ally that you pick gets a bigger shield, and it'll overflow to half the amount to your ally champions, and they also get some movement speed too. It's really good for shielding your whole team and speeding them up into a fight, or for leaving fights, speeding everybody else up and getting out of fights if you need to. So those are really good ways to get some of that. Here we're going to use it actually right there to get myself and him, both the shield, keep him alive, and then it'll come back up. I'm going to give him it for the speed up so he can make sure he closes that gap, gets that last auto attack off and kill Janna. So really, really useful ability. Nicely done. Nicely workable into fights as well. Then we're going to max that out second. And then rank 4-ish, because we'll probably put another point into our queue at rank 3. But you can put a point into this, obviously, at rank 3 if you want to go for a fight, really, because Focus Resolve, which is your W, is very, very good, too, in different ways. You tether onto a champion, revealing and dealing damage to them. After 2 seconds, it can go off, and it will deal damage, and it will root the target for a for a duration of time based on the amount of points you have in Focus Resolve. If you do a mantra Focus Resolve, what happens is you are going to immediately heal for 20% of your missing health and some scaling on that. For your missing health, plus, then if it does go off, then you'll also heal for some more if the tether remains unbroken and roots them. So you can get a good amount of health back and trick people in fights when you're both around the same level of health. You can mantra W and get some health back off of targets. You got to be careful so you don't overcommit if you're really low and you want to get some health back. But you can use it that way. But it works a lot better as mantraing your W in mid lane most of the time. It still works fine, obviously, in the dual lane, but typically you'll be saving it for your Q or your E for the shielding and speed ups and or the slows on your Q and that bigger inner flame circle. So those are the uses of your abilities. We max out our W last, and that's pretty much Karma. The big thing I will say with Karma players, just the general tip over all things, is make sure you're landing abilities and auto attacks so you get your mantra up faster. Good Karma players, really good Karma players, get those auto attacks and their abilities laid down consistently and over so they have more mantra empowered abilities to cast during fights. If you don't ever auto attack and you're not landing other abilities, it's just really super unfortunate, because that's her strongest part of her kit, is being able to use her quote-unquote ultimate over and over to empower her other abilities. And if you're not getting the cooldown on it fast enough, then you're not having as much of an impact as you could have with very simple tweaks to basically auto-attacking a bit more and landing a Q occasionally. So very, very important tip, land auto-attacks over and over to get that cooldown down, and land abilities too, because that'll speed it up as well. So that's the big tip with Karma. At least that's my big tip for you in Karma. That's a big one. It's a huge one. You can obviously get cooldown reduction, and that will help. But why not speed it up even more by landing those auto attacks and those abilities? Let's talk about the build a little bit and see where it's going. So early on, we obviously started with the Frost Queen's claim, right? Frost Queen's, no, whatever. Frost Queen's whatever, the Frost thing. That's what we started with. But we didn't build Frost Queen's claim. We went with Eye of the Watchers. I actually have been enjoying Eye of the Watchers a little bit more. It's fairly gold efficient. I do really like that you get that extra ward, which is a very good thing. And I don't really think Karma really needs Frost Queens. It's good. I mean, it's definitely a really good scouting tool, and it's a good slowing tool. Definitely nothing wrong with it. You can definitely go Frost Queens if you want. But Eye of the Watchers is definitely good and something to consider. Then after that, we finished that item off, and we finished our boots already. I think you have two main boot choices. You either have Sork shoes or you have Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Both really good choices. I went Sorks this game to just have a little bit more damage, and because I've been hitting people pretty hard and hurting them. And see you later, Zed. You're now dead. Hey, look, that rhyme didn't even try. But yes, so I went with Sorks just because she does good damage, and so I'm just going to amplify it a little bit. And then the next thing I actually really like on Karma is the Censer, which is good on champions such as Janna, Sona, and Soraka. But it does really help your big AoE heals and just shields, and just your normal shields in general too, overall. So it's a really good choice on her, and the other little bits give you really good help. Also, it's a fairly gold effective item too. It's fairly cheap, cheap to buy, and it just works well. So that's the nice thing I like. And then the next item I like to buy is actually a Banner of Command, which is what I bought next. Gives me a little bit more damage, a little bit of ability power, and I like being able to create a split pushing force. Regardless of how many YouTubers make a video for it, and regardless of how many high-level players I play with or just people, man, plenty of people are still really bad at wave management in this game. And I'm not saying that that's the easiest thing to do, but if you're smart with a team, then you can definitely do it. But because people are really bad at that, and creating pressure in a lane is really, really important. Banner of Command can actually sway things very well for your team. You put it down the bot lane and it helps push up really hard. Somebody has to go deal with that minion, which is also making you gold as it kills minions. But you're pushing with that big minion that you have, and that's going to cause them to have to react to go deal with it, and then that forces you, or that can open up opportunities for you to take objectives at the top of the map, whether it's Baron or like inhibitors. So yeah, you have lots of choice. And then next, I'm actually picking up some armor. You have multiple choices with this. You could go with Iceborne Gauntlet if you really wanted to, but Frozen Heart would be really good utility for our team. Slows down their attack speed, really good, gives me lots of armor and more cooldown reduction and a bigger mana pool. The rest of the build is in the description. Karma's fun, try her out. I wish you all the best of luck on the fields of justice.